Charles Leclerc is calming down in a fast Ferrari, while Brazil is set to honor Sir Lewis Hamilton. You can now watch full 24-minute episodes of The Inside Line at our official home on unbeaten.com. Championship leader Charles Leclerc says he doesn't have to overdrive anymore to get results, with his Ferrari the class of the field. The Monegasque was in a league of his own at the last race in Australia, where he earned his second win from 3 races, while his rivals wilted, making him favourite for the title. And Leclerc is getting used to that calm confidence out front, something that characterised his run in the junior categories, like F2. Obviously, the mindset is a bit different compared to the last 2 years, because now I know that underneath me, I've got a car that is capable of winning, and I don't really have to overdo things, he said. Leclerc is confident that the Scuderia can keep up the development fight to its main front-running rival, Red Bull. 7-time F1 world champion Sir Lewis Hamilton could soon be made an honorary Brazilian citizen, with a bill proposed to celebrate the Brits' contribution to the South American nation. Hamilton has long been a fan of Brazil, given he idolizes the late great 3-time F1 world champion Ayrton Senna.
I love Brazil. I've always grown up. When I was playing FIFA, for example, I was always playing Brazil as Brazil. And so, you know, and for example, when I was racing, I was always watching Ayrton.
The bill in the Brazilian parliament is yet to be voted on, but it's gaining support, notably from presidential hopeful Ciro Gomes. Daniel Ricciardo says that he's still confident McLaren will find a solution to its new era car issues, unlocking pace that would help it return to the head of F1's midfield pack on a more consistent basis. McLaren is currently sitting 4th in the constructors' standings, care of a double points finish in Australia, but that was its first for the season after a dire start in Bahrain with both cars out of the top 10.
The first race, we were, not on the pace, being polite. And, but, I was still upbeat and everyone's like, surely you're disappointed. Because it's new regulations, there's still so much to learn with the car. I am, still very, optimistic and confident that we can develop the car still throughout the year pretty well.
For the moment, Ricciardo expects better results at high-speed circuits, meaning short-term pain until F1's return to Azerbaijan.
I think we showed more promise in Saudi, so I think that's more like the higher speed kind of flowing corners. It was a little bit that way last year as well. We felt like that's where we were a stronger car, and I think it's similar at the moment.
Haas returnee Kevin Magnussen hopes the American team can keep up its position as best of the rest behind F1's top teams. The Dane returned to the sport this season as an 11th-hour replacement for Nikita Mazepin. But while he has scored points at 2 of the first 3 races with the potential for a podium, Magnussen told F1's official podcast Beyond the Grid that he's hoping restrictions on spending via the cost cap helps Haas stay quick.
The big teams are not going to be able to just fire resources at it, and it's going to be more equal. Formula One is certainly a better environment for the smaller teams now than it was. And, having started this good, that's certainly just a very, very positive thing.
Magnussen is new to the sport's ever-tightening cost cap, given it made its debut last year while he was racing in America.
I'm really interesting to see how are we going to be able to keep up with these big teams. They're still very big teams, but again, they don't have the same amount of money that they did in the past. So I hope we can keep up, and I think so.
Embattled reigning F1 World Constructors Champion Mercedes is flat out working on fixes for the extreme bouncing still evident on the W13, which has cost it performance in the opening 3 races. But it's expecting no quick fixes to test at the next race at Imola, given it will host the first sprint of the season, meaning just one practice session for experimenting before qualifying.
So it's very limited in terms of what we can learn and what we can do. When we get back to the European season, teams will generally bring more performance upgrades, and I suspect you'll see an evolution of our competitors, and we need to make sure we, at the very minimum, keep up with that.
But the Silver Arrows aren't sitting on their hands, with its Brackley and Brixworth facilities working tirelessly for improvements.
The work that goes on between races is enormous. There's turnaround of components, there's upgrades, there's understanding of problems that we have, and how do we move the performance forward, both on the PU side and also on the chassis side.
The nightmare continues for Aston Martin as the only squad not to score points after 3 rounds. And hard work is the only way out, according to team boss Mike Krack. Aston Martin's new chief, who hails from Luxembourg, has taken a lot of heat for the team's dire performance, with the expected resources to repair its fortunes reported to likely take up its development capacity. But with Krack spending more time at the factory and the arrival of Dan Fallows as technical director from Red Bull, he says things are moving in the right direction for the Green Team. The whole thing is not together at the moment, said Krack about his squad. We have to really work hard to get there. There's no magic at the end of the day. 4-time F1 world champion Sebastian Vettel and Lance Stroll crashed 4 times during the recent Albert Park weekend. F1 is set to return to South Africa as early as 2024. With its former Grand Prix host Kyalami near Johannesburg, the destination. F1 last raced at Kyalami in 1993, though the track will need to be upgraded to reach FIA Grade 1 status for the sport. F1 last visited South Africa in 2019, when Red Bull put on a Cape Town show run, which impressed former driver David Coulthard.
I've been really blown away by the level of the fan base for the automobile and for motorsport in general here in South Africa. And I know of the rich history with previous world champions and previous Grand Prix championship races in South Africa, but I hadn't appreciated just the level of enthusiasm, because it's been some time since there's been a Grand Prix here in the country.
The sport is also looking to add a second race in China, though that will have to wait, with the Asian nation still heavily impacted by COVID. Monaco says it's safe on the calendar, despite calls that it should step in line with other events' commercial terms and circuit upgrades. McLaren team boss Zak Brown said to media earlier this month that the Principality shouldn't be guaranteed a place in F1, with new rounds like Singapore setting standards for glamour. But Monaco Automobile Club president Michel Bouéry has since rejected claims that the race is somehow in jeopardy. It's not true, he said. We are still in talks with them, and now we have to materialize by signing a contract. I don't know if the contract will last 3 or 5 years, but these are just details. Mercedes remains committed to providing ex-F1 driver Romain Grosjean with a test in its 2020 championship-winning W11. Grosjean visited the Silver Arrows Brackley base for a seat fit last year, ahead of plans for him to run at the French Grand Prix. But the run had to be postponed after the French race was rescheduled for 1 week earlier due to the Turkish Grand Prix cancellation, given Grosjean's IndyCar commitments. Mercedes boss Toto Wolff, however, said he gave Grosjean his word it'll go ahead, though there are no details yet on when or where.
Okay.
Grosjean, who finished second at the last IndyCar race at Long Beach in California, did his F1 homework ahead of the original seat fit.
I've been watching so much on boards at the Grand Prix, just trying to compare what Lewis and Valtteri were doing with what we were doing, and trying to, go as fast as they were. So sitting in a Mercedes almost feels like I've seen it before, but obviously unique position to be in.
Thanks for watching. To stay up to speed on all things Formula One, make sure you hit the subscribe button.